All right, you guys. I'm gonna need your help a lot today because we have finished a sketch of all the different areas, and I can go through those areas, but I want to go through them through issues that people are having. So one thing that I noticed that people have described is the neck has been an issue. So that's something I'd like to go over. But anything that you guys have will be helpful because that's how I'd like to start to convey the material now um, through your, each person's interests or injuries or whatever it is. Yeah. So let's just wait a little bit for. I think Montserrat and Barbel's not still here. How are things? How are things going? There's Jerry. Anybody have any?
Some dots have been connecting. Is my microphone disturbed?
Nope.
Or
No,
no?
we can hear you. Yeah.
um, things came together. There are some links, um, really good. Um, feels good. Um, more order, and it's fitting together. It's,
Is there anything in particular you're working on, or are you just you feeling
no,
the right?
I just got how this body mind hierarchy relates to developmental hierarchy. You know, there is a relationship between them, and this is very interesting. To bring them together, I got a first idea, and um, and Sunday I have been so tired. I have been really, really tired. But today it's okay. It was uh, really, really, really great exhaustion uh, the whole day. Um, but it's I think it's integrating.
Very,
Pretty
very
good.
nice. Yes, this integration. I'm hoping again everyone is having a good experience with this. This right now, this is a very, very amazing time right now for the people in the group right now. I think uh, we're starting to use this process in a very, very serious way in yoga and in running and so forth. And um, maybe I don't know if Kim's on or if Don's on, but uh, you know, we're having experiences in which again we're able to really push in without uh, without any kind of pain or this kind of stuff. And so there's a little bit of these guys are just getting there, and uh, but it's again, I think it's a very interesting frontier. I mean, we were all very, very surprised yesterday about the way things are going, and um, there's a lot of questions as well when these things arise. How that, because it's really, I mean, really pushing in. And there are questions. Is it safe? This kind of thing again. And my primary feeling is that pain is usually a good marker to let you know. But in this particular situation, again, a lot of the guys are getting to a place where they're not feeling any pain, and but so then the question becomes, well, do you push in? So the right now, the way we're going about it is just to explore every possible movement inside of the movement to make sure again that everything is well supported. And so far there seems to be no problem about that. But I would like to show you some things about that as well. I know Jerry would be have a lot of interest in this, but this is coming to some points of the potentiality. What we do in this work is not just merely get rid of blocks, but also push in pretty hard into areas of strength. And the dancing is also happening in the same way. We are working a lot on dancing, and so there's a lot of exciting things happening here. So, you know, with the types of things that I'd like you to bring up in class is similar things that are you either overcoming in terms of your blocks, or areas in which you're kind of pushing ahead. And there's, you know, I think you should definitely have questions on both sides. Both sides um, are new areas. And like Thea's situation, in which she's suddenly having a very large feeling that she needs to rest a lot, is happens very often when you're integrating, for example. And I want you to sort of understand the signs and things that you can do to make things easier for yourself if you are going through that situation. um, just to give you a sense, for Thea, in Thea's case, for example, and maybe true for others, is that if you are flowing out, for example, and most people when they make changes, they do it through a flow out process, meaning that they're kind of trying really hard and they are, you know, directing their energy into a certain way, but they sometimes forget to flow in. And flowing in is another form of learning, very very important as you start getting into the flow of this technique. You're going to need that flow in, or you're going to feel very depleted. So, you know, it's best just to go through each person's situation and work from there. But so, does anyone want to start with something? I was thinking the neck, because the neck has come up quite a bit now. Geraldine is working with something with her neck. Barbel is working with her neck. And Kim has been working with her neck. So the neck is something we can do. But
And Tanya is working on the neck.
and Tanya is working on the neck. What's your neck thing, Tanya?
The C7. I used to have I have a forward head.
Okay.
And I have a sort of a inflammation on the top. So, anyways.
Okay, let's take a look at that for sure. Yes. Anything else, you guys? Well, come on, anything would be.
I have shoulders issue.
Geraldine has shoulder issue. That's right. And shoulder issues, by the way, are very often connected with neck issues. So she's got a neck issue and a shoulder issue. Let's see if we can start working on that together too. What else?
I have
Hips.
Oh, sorry. I have a jaw issue. Like I clench my jaws
Yes.
very much, and it
Who-
really. I'm guessing it's also connected with the neck, and also a knee issue.
Okay, wonderful. The knee issue is very, very new. Can you tell me something about the knee issue?
Yeah. So I fell from a bicycle, and I hit my I don't know the naming in English, like my tendon, I guess. So it froze, and I didn't treat it for many months. So now it's like I have just pain like outside and sometimes inside the knee.
Mhm.
And yes,
Is there any clicking, or is there any kind of?
I had clicking, but before my accident, like my knees always kind of like click. And now it's more like a sharp pain when I'm sitting, for example, too much, like a long time cross-leg, or when I'm walking a lot. So yeah.
Okay, yes, that's interesting. And Kim is working through. She just actually worked through. She's been racing through a jaw issue too. Is that right, Kim? Are you still? Are you there, Kim?
Yes.
Yes. Could you tell? Could you tell us about your jaw issue?
My jaw issue.
Yes.
I don't know. I started feeling jaw pain after my car accident. And I don't know, it just kind of, I don't know, it didn't feel acute anymore after a while, but it just, like, yeah, I have clicking in my jaw. I don't know. I haven't worked on it that much, so I'm just recently trying to strengthen it, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. What else can I say?
Well, are you grinding your teeth, or is this like a tension issue, or is it sort of just a sense that there's tension that you have never really dealt with inside of your jaw?
Yeah, it's like after I had whiplash, there was a stage where I couldn't chew anything hard without getting pain, and like there were weird sensations happening in my jaw, but it was very painful. I couldn't chew granola or bagels or anything like that. So then it just kind of, if that kind of chewing pain faded away, but yeah, I have this like intense like clicking when I open my mouth fully. There's a big click that it has to go over to open fully. Yeah.
Does anyone else have any kind of jaw issue where, at night or something, they're grinding their teeth?
I have that clicking on one side when I'm chewing. It's like every chew, there's a click. It's really hard not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I clench my jaw.
I clench my jaw.
When do you clench your jaw?
Very often. When I cook, when I sleep, when I'm in my car, very often. I actually have, my brother met me in French, you call it, I think maybe a gutter, it's called in English. And it marked my upper teeth.
Mm.
And I wear it at night when I think about it, but not every night, but very often if I think about it.
Yuji, I also have this problem at night. I have a retainer for that. I grind my teeth, I ground them quite a lot. So I have teeth issues because of that. So it's tension.
I have a child who grinds their teeth, and you can hear it. You can actually hear the teeth. It feels like a circular sound where his molars are going like this. It's very, very intense. And yes, when people who are sleeping and they may have some tension from the day or something like this. And, have you ever seen those people who chew gum, for example? Sometimes there's that nervous energy that people have, and they get rid of it by chewing gum. But sometimes it can be many things, but sometimes it can be, feelings of anger or aggression or something like this. And other times it can just be stress. There's all sorts of reasons for that. If you see someone chewing gum, sometimes you can pick that energy up. There's a certain energy that they have when they're chewing. Okay, let's look at that. Anything else, you guys? And again, a lot of these may be related too, so we can maybe take a look at one and hopefully
Shoulder, but since ever.
and what kind of shoulder? Meaning when you lift things, or just in your day-to-day life, you feel like it's sore?
No, the block in the shoulder blade.
And does it hurt?
No, restrict.
It restricts your movement. So what can't you do?
Opening up.
So can you do like this?
Yes, everything's possible, but it's still
It feels tight, restricted a little bit.
Yes, like a knot.
Yes. Who else feels that? Geraldine mentioned that she has. I'm familiar of her difficulty. Does anyone else experience shoulder issues? And can you describe what your situation is?
I have an old injury. I have no pain, but I just have an awareness of there being some limitations in the tissue, and it's on my AC joint. So yeah, you know, I can click it very easily. There are lots of things, particularly when I'm doing supple work, I can feel there's many restrictions there and like a spiral of holding around the connection, around the interface, connective tissue or something. But there's no pain, but I notice I'm not working with it.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
I've just
perfect.
compartmentalized it over there.
Yes, it's there, but you're not. And you're kind of living with it. You guys, this is if you were going to the average person and you were to go into their body and you were to look at all the different pains that you compartmentalize, you would be so surprised, because we're used to doing this, especially as we start getting older. We start to say, oh, here's a pain. Well, you can't help that. We'll just put this aside. We usually don't really deal with any of it until there is a point where there is some kind of thing where we have to, either it restricts us from doing what we want to do, or it starts creating quite a bit of pain in our lives. But this is the general attitude. For some reason, I don't know again, but we generally think, you know, if there's a pain in our body, there's nothing to do, and we just sort of live with it, and we, as Sally says, compartmentalize it. We just sort of make room for it in our lives and say, okay, well, you know, we're living with this now. Let's. The difficulty is that as you get older and older, those things start to multiply, and sometimes they start to create their own complexity. You know, they multiply like weeds, and that's generally what I hear from older people, is that, you know, they just when you ask them about their body, they've thrown up their hands and they say, well, where do I start? You know, they like this and this and this and this. So you guys, we're going to start here with this process. We're going to start with the idea that none of that should be there. And I'm honestly meaning this. Like, again, I'm not trying to, I don't want anyone to get frustrated, but I want you to understand that is the goal. And in the situations when what we're doing in the yoga, as I said, and all these other things, we are even trying to get to that place when we're doing like very, very difficult poses and so forth. So the idea here, this is a very big change. And so sometimes when I've asked you guys, oh, is anything up? People say, well, I have this and this and this and this and this, but let's not worry about that because that's all sort of part of my life. There's nothing else really happening in my life. But actually, all of those things are actually happening in your life. And when I ask that question, I'm asking for any one of those things. And I really want you to understand that that is the situation that we're trying to achieve here. And I want you to let me have a chance to try to do that, to find a solution for you guys, and then also for you to trust again that this is exactly what we're aiming to do, without any reservation. Every single one of those things, I want you to consider as being potentially something that you, more than potentially, that you can actually overcome. So we're going to try going through what that process actually means, given the knowledge that you have. And we're just going to start to sort of deepen that knowledge as we go into each one of those difficulties. So let's start with the neck. C6, C7 is this big thing, right? C6, C7, C6. Let's indicate again. Let's draw your hands down your back. The first bone that you meet that's really big, that bulges out, just start from the what's called the occiput. That's the little bone at the base of your skull. If you go to the base of your skull in the back, you'll see there's a little bump there. That bump is called the occiput. It's just a little place where a lot of muscles attach in. And if you draw your hand down your neck, right down the back of it, the first big bump that you feel, that is C7. You guys feel that? Yes? Now, this is the reason why that bump is there is because your cervical vertebra have what's called these things that come out. What are they called again? Somebody tell me. Transverse Sally, you know this, right?
Processes.
Processes,
Scineas
right?
process and the transfers.
Yes, it's spinous processes and transfers. The transfers are the ones that go out to the side. The spinous ones are the ones that go out in the back. C7 has a particularly long one, and that's why you feel it. And the reason why you feel that long one, and again, anytime that you feel a big bony protrusion of some kind, and is because that's where you can be sure a lot of muscles attached to. So C7 is the very beginning of the base of your neck, and it's got, again, the biggest muscles because that is the one that puts everything down. It's a natural transition point between the thoracic and the cervical. And just like you can tell, your neck comes out of your torso, right? Now, you guys, so this area is often very much the locus of a lot of difficulties. Why? Why would that be? Does anyone have any possible idea? Why would that thing right at the base of your neck be a difficulty?
Misalignment.
But misalignment can happen anywhere, right? Why would it happen here? Why is everyone complaining about the C6, C7 area?
It's sort of like the fulcrum point when your head is leaning forward. All the weight is kind of pulling on that point.
Yeah, that's partly. See, do you notice here? Let's look this up. Can someone, or I'll do it. I'm gonna look up.
Where your rib cage starts, right? So everything is.
Yes, the huge thing. What Kim said is that your rib cage kind of ends around that area. You see right there, right, the base, and it's so there's a transition point where all the support of your body is going through your torso, and then suddenly in your neck, it's just the spine now. There's no ribs around this area it's just your neck. You guys know that a giraffe has the same number of vertebrae as you do. You see, every mammal, I think, has the same number of vertebrae in their neck. It's just, giraffes, the spinal column of each one is huge, like this big, but they're stacked like this. So, this, let me see this. Let me just see if I can find this image here. Okay. Here is the images. Let me show you. This is called the Dowager's hump. You see different pictures of this, but you've seen this kind of thing, right? Do you see this? I'm not sure. Are you guys seeing my screen? I'm not sure if you guys are. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So you see here, for example, this transition, you saw Kimberly, this one is very common. Do you see this hump there? It's this one right here. Do you see that hump? This starts to happen very much as you start to get older. A lot of people, you see older women or men have this kind of thing here. Let me see. Here's another depiction of that. You see that weakness starting right at the very, very top of the spine, and then the neck going forwards because there starts to be a weakness there. Let's just go back to Kim's post, because Kim actually had this. She had a premature Dowager hump. I was like, oh, you're too young to have this. Let's see. Let's see if we can find this here. This was Kim's situation.
Go in the photos, you'll find it faster.
This one? Oh, wow. Wasn't Jerry's yoga stuff amazing? I love that. No, that's not helpful somehow. Let's see. Yeah, I love seeing your yoga poses, and again, I love that the outer part of your poses looks so amazingly balanced, and again, to get your inner balance as well is going to be amazing.
You can search by name in that with the search thing and the right.
Can
upright.
someone more computer literate than me help me? Because I am. Oh, there it is. See, I'm gonna just do it the old-fashioned way here. Okay, but you see her neck here like this. I guess this isn't quite this. Oh, there we go. Now look. Oh, look at that. There we go. You see, this would have been one of those librarian humps. You know, if she had continued, let's say 15 more years. Oh my gosh, she would have had a very unsightly Dowager hump there. It's difficult there. And you see there's just a lack of support. And because there's a lack of support here, everything is leaning forwards. There's this feeling. And it throws everything off because as Andrew said, the alignment is going to be taken out. So then these muscles, which already no longer have a mooring, they're no longer anchored, also have to carry the weight of the head forwards. And you know, how long can you hold this? Your head is like a bowling ball. So here it is, it's leaning forwards like this. There's already a lack of support on the bottom, and boom, so everything just collapses, poof, starts to collapse forwards. And this happens very much as a person gets older. They will find that. And here again, you look at this situation. This is a healthy situation in which that part has been re-strengthened, that bottom foundational point. And so she, if you ask Kim, for example, she's doing some exercises even on her own. Again, nobody prescribed them, but she realized that she had to do that. So let's start working a little bit with this. Does anyone, by the way, and this neck falling down like this sets off a whole chain reaction because now your neck is gone a little bit, your head goes forward, your neck is like this, you're straining. The strain can cause a lot of tension. That tension can spread to the shoulders. So again, when that thing goes forwards, all of a sudden, you're not on your bones like this. And guess what's going to start to hold on if your neck doesn't have all the support? Well, your shoulders are going to kick in. And so the traps are going to kick in. And you're going to very often find that with those people who have that neck issue, that if you feel their shoulders right here, along here, these are the trapezius muscles and other muscles here, they will feel very, very hard and tough. And this is, again, a result of the fact that now the head is having to be lifted up. It's not lifted up by the bones. It's not lifted up by the small muscles of the spine. And so is now going to be held up by the shoulders. And the shoulders will experience quite a bit of tightness. Tightness means that once you have that tightness, you might start pinching your nerves. So some people in that condition, they'll start to feel this sort of burning sensation in their hands and in their shoulders. Why? Because their shoulders are continually contracted and nothing can flow in that area. These are very common things. I see this all the time. If I see a person and they come in with shoulders, I'm looking around and I go, oh no, the neck is starting to collapse a little bit, and their whole upper torso has lost a lot of mobility and flexibility.
It goes into the chest too, right? Like,
yeah,
kind of.
Yeah, kind of a forward, inward
I feel that
feeling.
with Aiden does that. Like his chest is.
I felt this affect my thinking as well. Like it clouds my head. If my head is too far forward, yeah.
Yes. And another thing that will happen when your chest falls forward like that is that your arms no longer lift properly. So then you start to feel like your arms get constricted. When your shoulders start to get constricted, you can't lift your arms anymore very easily. Anyways, it's a trouble. And later, as you get older, that lifting the arm almost becomes impossible too. So I don't want you guys to feel like it's, everything is felt in a sort of low grade way, but eventually it can get into a difficult problem. But I also want you to understand that it's not very difficult to fix either. And Kim was able to do this in just a few years of just exploring. And if you guys know what you're doing, I think you can do it a lot quicker. So does anyone else have any observations about their particular neck issue that we haven't talked about? So I just want to you should always kind of get a sense of what's going on with the situation rather than thinking, oh my gosh, it's just going part. So we're just exploring this. Does anyone have anything to say about their particular neck issue?
I think you just made me realize where my neck issue is coming from.
Where's that? Elaborate. Geraldine, keep talking. Come on. You can't leave us hanging like that. You got to turn on your microphone.
I say, I'm ashamed. I don't want to say it, but the terrible thing is that I spend hours of my day at my kitchen table, and very often my head in my hand like this.
Yes.
For years.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yes. Yes. That can do it. I tell you, these little things like that, sometimes it's, this one woman told me about, she was like, she was complaining about a shoulder issue, and I said, oh, I said, what do you think it is? And what do you think it is? And she goes, I think I know what it is. And I said, what is it? And she goes, well, I carry around this really heavy purse, and she carries it around in this way, and it's her lovely purse. And I'm like, oh man, you just paid such a big price for that purse. She had to give up her purse because she, it was her thing, but again, it's, it's just kind of, you don't always have to carry on your purse. It's not part of your body, So this people have different ways that, that these things may come about. It might be something like that, like a behavior or just a particular thing. Does anyone else have anything to say about their neck? Because I really would like to address some of these things in detail.
I don't feel I have a block in the neck, but I noticed that when I become aware of, it's more an energetic awareness, that when I feel more heavy in myself, more collapsed. So then everything is being borrowed from the chest, and the chest has disappeared, and there's nothing under the neck. I've kind of collapsed somewhere to my solar plexus and my abdomen.
Yes, yes.
Then this kind of, like accordion effect or concertina effect, the compression then builds into a point of tension to bring my awareness. But if I haven't energetically got enough buoyancy, I can't just simply move myself out of that, because then I have to go into some kind of braced, unauthentic kind of external posturing to pull myself out of that. It's more like an energetic attitude or something.
Yes, absolutely. I met one woman. This is several women have discussed this with me. Is that when, for example, they've gone through puberty or something, maybe the chest expands a little bit, and there's a difficulty dealing with that. You know what I mean? And so they're kind of like wanting to hide away or something like this, and they feel like there's a lift that you have to have in your torso right here, in your sternum. You have to have this lifted, but because they felt that was an aggressive attitude or something, that they wanted to sort of hide away from that. So yes, so this energetic thing, this kind of, it doesn't have to come from necessarily the body, but it's, it's just simply your social, there's this social statement that's sort of being made with your body. That's so I don't know if Sally's talking about that particular idea, but sometimes it's an internal thing, which you feel like the posture is not what you feel on the inside, and so that you don't want to adopt that posture. But other times it's also, you don't want to adopt that posture because it seems to imply signals to the outside world, and you're like, I don't want to come off like that type of person or something. And a lot of people are, so when we go through a postural change, people are like, I really feel self-conscious. I'm walking down like this. I never do this in my life. And so these are issues that come up, and it's very important to understand that energetic side as well, the flow side of it. It's whenever you make an adjustment, it's like you feel like you're making a statement without even meaning to, and you also wonder about the authenticity or inauthenticity of that movement. And every adjustment is always going to feel at first unusual. So this is going to be very important for sure. Anything else, you guys, in terms of like pains or certain things that you might find with your thing before we actually get into this situation?
In Germany, we have a very interesting word, called Aufrichtig. And Aufrichtig means honest. And
Yes.
on the same way, it means that your spine is in a line. Your spine is okay. It's the same like
Yes.
honest. And it's
Yes.
very interesting. And I'm a very long woman. And I was as long as now when I was 40, 30. And I try to be not so long. I don't want to be so, like this.
Yeah.
And a lot of tall people do that. They say, boom. And yes, I try to be not be like I am.
She
This
doesn't
is
want to
one thing.
stand out. Yes.
And the other thing in my daily life is that I often forget my own body when I'm working with other persons.
Yes. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
that's a problem.
All of this is huge, 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 huge. So again, there may be again these social difficulties that are involved with it. I mean, Barbara was talking about those times that it's in middle school, high school, you start growing and stuff, and kids are merciless about this, right? As soon as they see something different, they point it out, and it becomes a point of ridicule, or sometimes a point of like admiration. It's just whatever it is. It's very, very out there. And when you start to adjust yourself to try to be, again, whenever you try to be something that you're not, it creates a difficulty inside your body. And so this is just a physical manifestation of that situation. You often see this type of feeling with meekness, like you kind of, this kind of feeling of protection or of shyness. And yes, there's a feeling that there's a feeling with that. And then there's also a feeling when someone's like this, and they're in the Bible, you see that connotation, he walks upright. Upright meaning he is straight. And in one of the persons, who was it? Abraham was an interesting character, because the description of him was he was stiff-necked. Stiff-necked means that he was upright but also inflexible, stubborn. He was his neck wouldn't move. He was just like stiff-necked. So the neck, how you hold the neck can also indicate a kind of defiance and a kind of I go to the beat of my own drum, and I don't move my neck. And I think you've probably seen that, where there are people, that happens when I was in physics, that everyone had a big like head, everyone has a big head. And you can tell when they're dancing, it's like their head doesn't move, the head's like this and everything's kind of moving really, but the head's not moving. And again, that indicates maybe the fact that, a lot of the energy's in the head, and, the movement's inside, but everything's kind of stuck there. So you'll see there are many connotations socially, morally. The idea of having an upright spine is very much, if you read the Bible again, the word upright is used all the time. Upright, upright, upright. I don't know if you guys know, but left and right have a similar situation. Left is the Latin word is sinester, which means, but it's the root of sinister. So the idea was that the things that happened on the left hand side were sort of bad, and the things that happen on the right hand is good. My right hand man, that's the good guy. But my left hand man, that's the bad guy. You see, there's all sorts of connotations that people have through the time put on posture. There's all sorts of things like that. And it's just good to know these things. I mean, I don't think you should go around saying, oh, I've got this thing, I'm morally this and that, and so therefore that. I don't want you to make that kind of connection, but I do want you to know that there is something of a pressure there. and you should be aware of those pressures as well as you go through, so that you don't get so that as we're adjusting posture, for example, you don't think, wow, like I've really gone through this so many times where I'm working with someone with their posture and they're like, you really want me to walk like that? You want me to stand like that? And I'm like, yes. They're like, how can I do that? I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, look at me. You know, I'm like, what? You look great. But for for whatever reason, like they feel like they're like, holy mackerel, I'm putting myself out there. And that's just because they're not used to it, and they're not, again, all those social pressures and all those energetic things that are actually present inside the pose are coming inside the situation. So just FYI, we're going to pass by these things, but let's not worry about them too much. Just be aware that these are things that we can come across.
And it's really dangerous to put one out, because there is coming something big.
Say that again, Thea. I didn't catch that.
I say it's really dangerous to put one out because something is coming back and you have to deal with.
Oh, oh, I see. Yes. It's hard to put yourself out there sometimes. Yes, but you have to. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and start looking at this. The first thing I'd like you to do is I want you to do something. Well, I'd like you to hold your posture a little consciously, and just find what do you consider to be your conscious way of holding yourself. I mean, I don't think normally you sit around thinking, how should I hold my neck? But I want you to now just go ahead and just do that. Just play around with it and saying, how would you start to hold your neck? So I'll give you an instruction. I'll say, lengthen your neck. You just go ahead and just say what that means to you. Lengthen your neck. You very much hear that instruction given to you in yoga, or if you're in a dance class, people say that all the time. Lengthen your neck. Lengthen your. What does that mean? What are you doing when you're doing that?
I feel a line in the back of my, like at the back of my neck, going up to my head.
Well, let's
and my chin goes down a little bit.
I want to ask that, and I want you to answer that first through your action. So let's not worry about like what you actually do. Just go ahead and just do it first. Take a moment and feel, what does it mean to lengthen your neck? And I'm going to ask some questions as you do this. Where does your neck start? Where does your neck end? Does your neck get stiffer when you lengthen it, or does it become more flexible? Does any other part of your body move when you move your neck? Can you find a relationship between your neck and your jaw? Can you find a relationship between your neck and your shoulders? Can you find a relationship finally with your neck and your organs? Can anyone speak to anything that they found there, just in terms of like what connections they found or what questions that they found led them to any small insights?
As I was lengthening my neck, I felt it connecting deeper into my torso. And I had the feeling of like these adjustments or movements, I could feel it traveling down the length of my spine and more into my secondary sheath. And when you mentioned organs, I did become aware of a relationship between my stomach and my heart as I was moving. So definitely, the longer I got, the more connected it felt.
Who else? Geraldine, you need to unmute yourself. You need to unmute yourself.
Okay. For me, it was even physical. Like if I would turn my head like this, I would feel some movement. If I listen to my shoulder, I would feel some movement by doing that. I think for the jaw, it was more like the up and down thing. And then what was the last part you asked? The shoulder?
Organs.
And oh yeah, and the organs, yeah. Also, I found that by moving my head, I kind of felt like everything would move. If I move my head back, like, or everything here would kind of move up with it. And if I move my head down, everything would kind of move down with it. So yeah, I found like movement in all those places while moving my head.
Very
Interesting.
nice. Yes. This is all very, very important because those connections will become very important to replace that feeling of insecurity, anxiety that you have. As you start working with your neck, you have different, if you think of your body as being a social organism, you get to sort of make sure that you're connected and balanced with each of the relationships you have inside your body. And it's very nice to have that. So you're not just working on trying to fix a problem, but you're trying to create relationships and sort of build your own self-guidance through those relationships. Now with this, oh Sally, yes, go ahead, please.
I was going to say an insight for me was the organs. If it gave me an opportunity to balance my spine in a different way. So it was something as I contacted the organ system, I allowed myself to feel the weight of the organs, and that somehow, whether it was the anatomical sort of fascia attachments to the spine, but somehow balanced out my system, so my spine was not just holding my up, it was the tensegrity between all those things. And then I felt a nice release to my neck.
Wonderful, wonderful. Again, and so this is the type of thing. So what Sally's saying is that she felt all these connections. You know, again, Sally's very, very strong in her investigation of her organs. She's been doing this. This is one of her strengths, and you know, she's finding that sort of a multi-layered relationship with her organs. You know, like it's not just this against this or this, but this kind of continual feedback between how her movement of her neck is and the adjustment that she needs to make in her organ somehow creates a place where it feels right. It feels like it's starting to come into balance. And so these are all important. And we're gonna, I'm gonna, even though people have mentioned the organ very much, I'm gonna start first with the external body first. I'm gonna try. We're gonna use the breakdown from the point of view of just a traditional bone muscle. And I'd like to do that first. So we're working basically with the spine, the torso, the shoulders and hips, and then the tertiary points, head and tail, hands, feet, and fists. We're going to use that hierarchy. And I want to just show you from just working from that particular level of experience, how you can start to build up a little bit of a relationship of understanding of how those things have to stack together for your neck to work. So what I want you to do is I want you to grab a book or any kind of heavy cushion or anything like this, something that's like about anywhere between 1 pound and 5 pounds. Yes, that's lovely, Sally. Find what you like. Geraldine, that might be a little light, but that's fine. And that's good enough. Yeah, it's fine. You can do that. It doesn't matter, but make sure it's something that's relatively, and we're just going to do a simple thing. Put it on your head. This is one of the first things. You see this happening before, right? You want your spine, your neck is just part of your spine. And when you lengthen your spine, you can't lengthen just your neck. It's impossible. You have to lengthen your spine. Your spine starts from your tailbone. And I want you to think now that as you are lengthening your neck here, that what you're really doing is lengthening your spine. You cannot lengthen your neck by itself. This is one of the problems that people have when they start working on an injury. They forget the whole and they think, oh, this is a problem. I'm going to work on the part. But there's no way that you're going to work on that whole, that neck, unless you understand that it's connected, and it literally is connected to the rest of your spine. In fact, this whole division between thoracic and cervical is, again, an organic development, but looking from a whole, we can't really separate that out. Nice, Jerry. That's a good one. Good balance. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and start to move a little bit. And I want you to see how every part of that movement entails a movement of your whole spinal column. So your neck, you cannot isolate your neck. We start doing that as we get older, you know, and you'll see that, you know, those guys, those barrel-chested guys, you'll see them, their heads don't move. I mean, their torso doesn't move. They move, but the torso just stays in one place. But actually, your torso moves with every movement of your neck. The other thing that when you say lengthen your neck, you'll start to find, again, there's this subconscious, when we try to direct our flow, we almost always direct it forwards of ourselves. We always want to do it because we're used to connecting it to eyes and to connecting it to something we're doing. And so we project forwards. I want you to find, again, that so a lot of times what people will do is they'll start lifting their chin because they think lifting, you know, it's like, oh yeah, my face is going out. Don't lift your chin, tuck your chin, and you'll see that your weight will go a little higher. You want to have your chin slightly tucked. And this is very unusual for most people, because most people, again, will start to adjust using their face. And so they'll lift their chin like this. They'll say, yes, I am lengthening my spine, but actually they're shortening their spine. I want you to find a little bit of a tuck, and then you're going to find a lengthening happening. So it's the neck will actually lengthen, and you'll feel your entire rib cage connect when you do that. When you tuck in your chin, you will start to actually not only lengthen your neck, but you'll start to feel your rib cage automatically engage, and there'll be a lift in the front of your rib cage. Does anyone feel that? When you lift and tuck your chin, you're going to allow your jaws to release as well. I want you to see if you can find that. Because normally, if you have your chin forward, and you can just try putting your chin forward, you'll see that your jaw gets put into a kind of awkward position. Try to open your jaw when you're in that position, and you'll kind of see what I mean. You tip your head forward and you open your jaw, as opposed to keeping your head chin tucked and open your jaw. And again, if you over tuck your chin, you're also going to feel that. There's a place there where you're going to find your jaw opens quite naturally. But if you bring your chin forward and you open your jaw, or if you bring it back and too far back in your jaw, you're going to find a constriction there. So find a place where your jaw seems kind of free-ish, and you're going to have an indication again where you should be. You are always building relationships in your body. You're not placing your body into a certain place. You are finding a relationship. Now, go ahead and try that. Move your head around and move your jaw around as well. And you'll see that in certain places, if you try to open your jaw, it will be very hard. Try to move your neck in such a way that your jaw stays released. And literally put it in places in which it's difficult for your jaw to move, just to see the difference. There are some positions that your jaw is going to it's going to find it difficult. Now, to find that jaw and to release that jaw, what you'll find is at the very top, at the base of your skull, you have to kind of find a support in the base of your skull. Yes, just where Jerry has her hand is kind of underneath the ears by what's called a mastoid process. There's a little bump on either side of if you just bring your fingers around from that bump in the back of your head and bring it out towards your ears along the bottom border of your skull, you'll find right underneath around your ears, just behind your jaw, there are these two protrusions. Those are called the mastoid processes. And those are very, very important to kind of get a sense, like it has to be supported in that area. I want you to see if you can find that support. You actually have to kind of pull up. So I'm going to bring up another thing. I'm just going to throw out just a couple of things here, and and then I'll piece it together a little bit more. But you'll see that as you're lifting your torso like this, you are also creating a column of support through your torso, and you'll feel that in your diaphragm. So you'll feel that there's a concave in your diaphragm, but you actually want to feel that that's related also to a concave diaphragm in your pelvis. You want to feel your pelvic floor is lifted. You want to feel like your diaphragm is lifted, and then you want to feel right here in this area here, you want to feel as if there was a diaphragm here to lift that. So there's a little bit of a lift, that a little bit of a hollowness feeling that you're going to find, and that's going to extend all the way up to the mastoid. You'll sometimes see like Geraldine has this very well established. She has a beautiful neck, and there's these two. These are called the sternocleidomastoid muscles here, like the sharp ones that are in protrusion here. But you want to kind of feel like that is lifted up, so that there's a kind of a sense of a hollowness and a lifted floor at the base of your neck and also at the base of your skull. You're going to find this lifted floor at your pelvic floor, at your solar plexus level, at the base of your neck, and as well at the top, at the base of your skull. This is another relationship that's quite important to kind of feel that you're stacked correctly. Notice here, by the way, we are not using any mirrors here. We don't need them. When I work with clients, I never use a mirror. Never have them look inside of a mirror. Never have them do anything. It's purely functional. It's functional, and it's a feeling of self-organization in your body. You don't need to try to copy a movement. You need to feel it as a function, or you need to sense it as a sense of sort of like, oh yes, this is feeling right. Who's feeling something here as we're just doing these very simple adjustments here? What are you feeling? We're talking about connecting the movement through the whole vertebral column. We're talking about creating these successive floors of support through your body, for starting from your pelvic floor, and then a sucking feeling in your diaphragm, and then at the base of your neck. And we're also saying the relationship of the jaw here, just using the jaw as kind of a way to parse your way through. Is this what is, how do I know if this is, well, let me also open my jaw. And how can I support that better, so that when I move my jaw, I don't feel stressed? I'm going to just do one other thing, or two other adjustments here, and then we're going to talk about this. The first I'd like you to do is your rib cage goes all the way up to here. Like if you take your fingers and you just drag your fingers down to sides of your neck until you reach your clavicles, the level of your clavicles, that's how far your neck goes. But it's true on the outside too. So even though we have this sort of trapezius hump here, if you just trace it all the way down to here, and then just trace a ring all the way around to the back, right there, you actually have rib cage there. There's the smaller ones up there, but these upper rib cage need to be engaged. Most people, again, do not think of them as being engaged, but they have to. And the one way that you can engage them is just to think of this ring here, and to think, is that ring tilted forwards? I want you to open that ring. I want you to feel that ring is opened, so that but it's open flat. And most of the time what you'll find is that ring is inclined a little forwards, so that as you breathe, you can imagine that the hole that ring creates is actually facing a little towards the front. You want it to face towards the ceiling. So you have to open that ring and kind of feel like your neck emerges out of that ring. So see if you can find that ring and lift that front of the ring a little bit. Bring the back part of that ring a little bit back, and also open that ring a little bit, so that you feel like almost like your head is balanced on that ring. Now, if you engage that ring and you lift the front of that ring and you feel also the back of the ring, this is behind all these big muscles. There's these big muscles, these trapezes. You have to look underneath that and think just the surface of your rib cage as if you're drawing it down. This rib cage is being drawn down in the back and opening in the back. I want you to see how that starts to change the relationship of your shoulders. You should start feeling like your shoulders can spread out a little bit and widen naturally without you doing anything. If you engage that rib cage activates. I like to call this the last 10% of your torso. Everyone activates their torso up to about here, but they forget that last 10%. And when you do that last 10%, your shoulders will change quite dramatically in how they rest on your torso. And the last thing I want you to do is I want you to work on the secondary zone, which is your shoulders. I want you to feel how your shoulders now just rest on, it's almost like it's draped on your rib cage here. And that's what I would like you to do. I don't want you to use most people's neck problems comes when they're trying to hold their head up with their shoulders. I want your shoulders to be completely relaxed here and let your torso hold it. Your shoulders are just merely draped over. One image that's sometimes helpful is you imagine that the way it's draped is like, well, this is the way I like to physicalize it. Just roll your shoulders forwards, roll your shoulders up, roll your shoulders back. Just make a circle with it just so that you feel that. And what you're actually going to do is you're going to roll your shoulders forwards. You're going to roll your shoulders up. Now you're not going to go back. You're just going to go straight down and just relax. And then let it drape right over your rib cage. Your rib cage should be activated. Your shoulders will just find a natural sort of suspension point on your rib cage. It's almost like hanging a pair of pants on the back of a chair. It just sits there. It's wide, but it's resting and sort of conforming to the structure of the chair rather than trying to hold up the chair. And I want you to go ahead and try that. Use your shoulders to try to support, and you'll see what that does. Try to activate your shoulders and try to somehow get it to lengthen your neck. Like try to use your shoulders that way. I want you to see what happens when you activate your shoulders and try to use your shoulders to do anything with your alignment. Like go ahead and try to open your jaw when you are using your shoulders to activate your neck and lengthen. Just a few more moments here. I just want you to again play with this and just slight movements again. Try to see if you can get to a point of just a relationship with each one of these different points. Again, if you find something that interests you, you don't have to stay with all of these. If it's too complex, you say, oh, well, I'm mostly interested right now in how my neck is connected to the rest of my spine. That in itself will be very helpful. All right, let's discuss this for a second. What do you guys feel here? And anybody?
For me, the most interesting point were the thing with the last 10%. It changed everything.
The last 10%. Yes. You're going to find that very much, Barbell, with a lot of the clients that you work with, the people that you work with, you're going to find that last 10% is the culprit. People do not finish their body. They get kind of there in the last 10%. So crucial, especially for things like your neck and your head. Everything relies on that last 10%.
I was a bit surprised personally that you asked to open the ribs behind rather than to close them.
What do you
I
mean?
felt like closing to the back was maybe a little bit more, was kind of making that circle more balanced compared to my neck.
You know what? Again, I want you to know I'm not telling you to do anything like particular, right? I want you to just find a relationship. So you're saying that you found it better when you kind of opened your neck on this side but closed up on the back. Is that correct?
I think so.
Yes.
I think that if I want to engage my upper ribs, it's easy. Yeah, I don't know.
Yes. No. You know, again, you guys, I'm not. I want you to know, what works for one person and another person is going to sometimes be different depending on the adjustment that person needs to make. But the relationship is going to be there regardless of whether, you know, we all have a neck and we all have rib cage. We're going to have to find a relationship, but the nature of that relationship is I want you to understand what anytime I say something I'm not telling you a way to do it. I'm telling you a process on how to explore how to do it. Yeah. So so Geraldine is saying that it was good for her to open up here, but then towards the back here to feel almost like it's closing in a little bit and pulling down. So she found that a closing feeling allowed her to sort of feel that engagement of her upper ribs in the back. Is that correct, Geraldine?
Yes, and also, like, I mean, it was helping me to position that part, that ring that you were talking about. That's the thing, like, if I wanted the ring to go back, then I don't know. However, I was not that comfortable, so I'm not sure.
Yes, and why weren't you comfortable? This is important. You felt that this was happening, so this was definitely engaging, right?
Yeah.
But what does it mean that you were not comfortable? Because you must have felt also that it was some, like, you're correcting me, so that you must feel that this was working for you, right? So it's working for you, but it's uncomfortable. Explain that.
Well, first of all, I wasn't sure that I was able to, like, same thing, like I kind of felt that if I wanted my neck support, my shoulder should go back maybe a little bit more. I guess that also goes with that closing part. But then it did put a bit of tension in this part of my back. So I'm not sure, like I guess maybe I was putting too much pressure on my ribs or something like that, and therefore it kind of feels a little too
this is what I was saying, is that when you start applying you start using your shoulders to make adjustments in your posture, it's a very powerful thing that you're bringing in. And when you're working with the spine, is very delicate, with the torso delicate as well. But when you work that shoulder, all of a sudden it's going to increase. So how would you deal with that? I want everyone to just try Geraldine's things. Geraldine's saying, first of all, she's giving a nuance, and this is generally true. What she's saying is true, is that, you rarely just do one action. If you're going to open, you're going to close somewhere. There's got to be a dialectic to balance all the time. So she's found, okay, if I think of my front part of my ring to open, but I feel the other to close, that seems to create this better tension. I want you guys to find that. And then I also want you to find that she said, oh, well, if I use my shoulders, that kind of accentuates that problem. But again, there's an overpowering feeling that happens. So if
No, okay, I didn't use my shoulder. I just felt when you say to bring the shoulder like a front and up and then just let them down.
Yes.
I just felt like letting them down was kind of skewing what I had done before.
Yes. And so what I wanted you guys to do was to let it down, like I said, in a passive way. You want to think it's almost like draped over your rib cage rather than pushed down. But what I'd like her to do, because is I'd like her to use a reflex here to ease that. So here, instead of just draping it down, I want her to actually control it. So what I want her to do is go up. I want you to lift it up, and then I want you to do what we call a Viloma going down. A Viloma is a particular oscillation contour. It's actually a contour that you use in breathing very much. And what it is kind of a lowering, coming up, but not all the way up where you started, kind of coming up a little bit and then coming back down again, then coming up a little bit and then coming down. So it's kind of like a descending staircase that you're going down. And that's how I want her to go and lower her thing. I want her to bring it up at the very beginning. So she brings her shoulder up, she brings it down, and then she slightly lifts just to make sure she's in balance. Then lower it again, bring it up just slightly and bring it down. And so she's sort of settling her shoulders down using this oscillation contour. It's called a Viloma contour. So it's like a little staircase going down. This is a very helpful kind of way to do it, so that, again, you don't run into these instant problems. When you find yourself doing an action and finding immediately there's a problem, you have to slow down that process and find a way to make it smooth. And this is one way that you can make it smooth, using what we call a Viloma. It's going down, slightly up, bring it down again, slightly up. Each time you go up, you want to rebalance the situation so that you feel that you are having a chance to reassess your alignment so that you don't get into that skewed place. Does that make sense, you guys? That's the meaning of the little uptick, is that you want to keep yourself in alignment, so as you lower down, you kind of always reassessing where you're lowering and making sure that you're lowering into the right place. You want to do that Viloma in a decrescendo manner. So you want to lower it a lot, bring it up, lower it a little bit less, bring it up a little less, bring it down. And so your lowering and your raising becomes very, very small. So we're kind of like finding the settling point here. So this is a learning reflex that's going to be applied to sort of hone that, so that she doesn't just do it in just a kind of rough way, but she's really careful about how she's doing it. You're going to find this. This is, how you adjust in your posture. You don't just crank things into place. You've got to let them kind of settle in and figure out as you're going. Is that right? Is that right? Is that right? Geraldine, do you understand what I'm saying here? Yes, she's saying yes. So I want everyone to try that just to see what that's like. Just we're going to go a little Viloma. That means, again, that we're going to lift our shoulders up. We've got our length of our of our torso, but we want to find a relationship with the shoulders to that torso. What we're going to do is we're going to lift it up. We're going to gently raise it down, then come back up. And as we come back, we sort of merge with the alignment, so that we're sure that we're lowering it down correctly. Then we lower it down again. But we lift it up again just to make sure that it's connected to the alignment. Then bring it down. And each time you're doing successively smaller steps. You're lifting it up a little less and lowering it down a little bit. so that the adjustment becomes very, very fine. And hopefully towards the end, we're going to hit that threshold of awareness, and we're going to find a merging that happens, and that's when you have settled it down. Perfect. And what you'll often feel there is a release of that tension, what in the form of an exhale or in the form of just a merging feeling, a melting feeling. And so we avoid what happened with Geraldine at the very beginning, which she sort of did her shoulders, but it was one movement. It didn't sink in right, didn't merge right, and actually caused a problem. Here, you're being very careful about it, checking each time to make sure that you're connected with your alignment until you hit a merging. And this is a much better way of doing it than to do it sort of like very roughly. Now, when you guys are doing this, you don't have to be treating this as if like it's like some like really like precise like thing. Go ahead and do it, like move around while you're doing it slightly. Just, you know, it's loose. You will find that settling happening. You know, it's more important that you stay loose. It's not like there's just a little pin that you have to put into a hole. You just feel like your flow actually just starts to merge. Geraldine, were you able to find that little merger point there at the end? Who was? Did you find that? Thea says yes. Pamela says yes. How about you, Geraldine? Yay. Who else?
I also was able to feel the breath up there for the first time.
Yay.
Yeah, me
Okay.
too, yeah, little bit of that.
Fantastic. You guys realize, look, you could do that 100 times the other way and you would learn like maybe 100, or sometimes you would find just getting into another pain. You do it this way once really well, you will have done your work. And it will stay with you. There may be more that you have to do, but you could really cut down your time, like of, you know, like again, if you do it intelligently and you understand how to do it and you do it just using this flow, you can cut down this time very, very much. And this is so important. Most people, again, they will, let's say you have a PT exercise or you're going a fitness exercise, and you know, you're going to have to run it 1,000 times because you're not learning it very much each time. You're just doing it. You're coming into the gains. Then they'll say, oh, well, just work it out. You know, it'll feel better. You know, as you go, it'll feel better. But, you know, but you can get it to feel right now. And this is, again, this is what I want you to understand. Using these techniques, the expectation can be right now. And I want you to gain, so that means that any little problem that you have, treat it as if, don't be afraid of it. Here, I will try to get you to that place where you can solve it right now for everything, literally everything. And I want you guys to understand that's the nature, I mean, the importance, I think, of this technique. What it has to contribute is right now. Who else? Who else had some difficulty or had some insight? We worked with the jaw. We worked with the we were working, I mean, with the rib cage. We were working a little bit with the whole spine. Did people find that whole spine feeling?
I wanted to comment on what you just the exercise you just did.
Mm-hmm.
That seemed to surprisingly take me into like meditation, and when I was in meditation, it felt like when you read all those, you know, the ancients talk about like, how should your posture be? It should be relaxed and alert. But like when I used to read that, it wasn't relaxing the way they were describing it, but this was like from the inside out. And I'm like, oh, I think this is what we're trying to communicate.
Yes.
How?
Yes. Oh my gosh. You are hitting the nail right on the head. And yes, you guys, every reflex technique, when you do, you're looking for a resonance point like that. And when you hit that resonance point, you know, like I said, there's sometimes a person will say, you know, I have sometimes people saying to me, oh, I don't know if I'm doing this right or whatever it is. But there is a clear marker. You don't have to guess at this at all. There is a very clear marker. And when Jerry checks like that, I know. I can tell by someone's face or, you know, just by their state, whether they're getting it. Because it doesn't matter. All that stuff doesn't matter. What your head tells you, am I doing this right? Am I not doing this right? None of that matters. What does matter is that inside you will feel the result. And the result is simply what Jerry was talking about. Again, it's something that you feel. I don't want to really describe it. You guys will find that. But once you find that space, you have found it. And you have to know you don't have to do any more than that or any less than that. That's what you're looking for. And you're going to find that as you go, that state of meditation or resonance is going to get ever more deeper and more intense and more like sort of engulfing. But it's going to be present there all the time. And this is the thing, you know, I have difficulty again communicating this process because, I mean, the techniques are very, very clear. I feel like I can describe that clearly. But then, you know, people, you know, they go, oh, well, how does this, you know, how does it work and how does it get there? And I can't really answer that part of it, but I do know that when a person gets there, they just get there and that's it. So you guys, this is why it's sort of a science and an art. The science part of it is the fact that the technique to get you there, these techniques are quite strong, very, very robust. You can rely on them because they're very, very simple, but they do the job. But they're not meant to be, the techniques themselves, they don't matter. Like, I don't really care. You know, the only reason that they're there is to get you to this place. And there are literally 1,000 ways you can get to this place. So we're right now exploring how to do it through this particular level of awareness, right? The skeleton and the torso. But we're gonna get there in another way too. It doesn't matter. But I'm just saying all of this for you guys to get a sense of the character of this process. It's not quite paint by numbers. You know, just knowing the techniques doesn't work. You have to have an understanding of what you're doing and what you're looking for.
I was just going to say that I love how the processes or the reflex help me feel the deeper design, so I can track much more what's going on behind the superficial feeling or idea of restriction, you know. So I felt the connection, not just this local idea to my AC, but also how that's part of something coming through the side of my face, down my neck, under my shoulder blade, through this. So the whole kind of entrails of it really reaching out. And
yes,
yeah, so that's really useful, obviously.
Yes. And you know, this is, I used to call this the octopus state with Barbel and Montserrat. And you know, once you hit that state, when you're open, you are now, as Sally's saying, available for all sorts of information coming down, because you're sort of not trapped anymore inside of that problem. It's not, the flow is happening. And then all of a sudden the flow takes you in many directions. Like you start seeing relationships that you hadn't seen before. So, you know, all the techniques are a doorway to achieve that octopus feeling where you are starting to attack. And then you can go to town. We're going to get into some more advanced reflex groupings so that you can keep progressing and understanding how your consciousness is changing. because it literally is going to function, keep continually getting into a more and a more open state in which you can't use the same sort of like local reflexes. You have to sort of keep expanding your reflex technique to keep going with your evolving awareness. This is really fascinating. I mean, I think this is like really the guts of this stuff, and hard to explain to most people. But as I said at the very beginning, you can definitely show them through injury. You guys can feel when you have that release, right? You guys can see when there's a constriction or there's some kind of issue, and that there's a melting out of that situation into a new territory. And we're going to definitely go into those layers. All right, you guys, let's just take a quick 2 or 3 minute break just to grab some water or something, and then let's finish out. Yes? Okay, you guys, listen. You know, sometimes you know, we discuss a lot of things here, and you know, I've been talking about this stuff. You know, we've been very exploratory and stuff, but I want you to understand something. I'm a very serious person, and I really mean what I'm saying here. I want you guys to understand this, is because sometimes people don't understand. You know, they think, oh, okay, well, he's saying this and he's saying this, and you know, we're supposed to figure it out. And you know, I'm always saying, oh, you guys need to figure it out. But you know, me personally, again, I'm just a little bit of a, I'll just like open one door here, is like, I think you really will find again that this, what I'm talking about here is a very, very, I mean exactly what I'm saying. And I don't want you guys I want you guys to understand, I'm very serious about this. You know, again, I don't mean I'm serious in the sense that, you know, you have to do this or whatever it is. You know, you do what you want to do, but from my point of view, is like, I think you can do exactly what I'm saying, which is, again, any kind of difficulty that you're having, that you're going to be able to significantly get into that situation and move it about, make some very, very strong changes into it, and to be able to really push in and find new things there. Like that feeling that Jerry's talking about, that, you know, that feeling of resonance is extremely powerful. This school is not your typical school. And again, I can't promise you this because, again, everyone has to show this. But again, I feel that up to this point, I've been able to show this with a small group of people that we are working with, that you can really take off if you understand what is being said here. And I want you to understand that this is not a system in which you have to guess at anything, or that there's something that, oh, this works for this person, for this not. No. The way I want you guys to look at it, and you can put your full force of everything that you got in terms of, if you feel skeptical about it, it's fine. I like that. I want you guys to try it. This is very important for me to know where you guys are. But I like these types of situations, and I want you guys to understand that I truly want you guys to feel free to explore it in that way. So that, you know, if you have these things, this is why I'm saying, you know, if you have something, you have questions or something, I really would like you to ask, because I think it's important, but not only because it will add information to the class, but it will lay to rest these kinds of things. Like, we will know, you know, I think the best way to approach this kind of work is to just do it and to see if it works for you or it doesn't. And it's very, very important. So I want you to put yourself in that situation. I don't know exactly how to put this, except that, again, I'm very, very serious about it. I just want you to know this isn't like a parlor trick or something. I'm trying to get you to understand that we are trying to, all of the different phenomena that you're finding inside your body and mind, I think we have a way to approach them in a very, very powerful way. And I want you to test yourself a little bit. And for this last 15 minutes or so, I would like to go into this, because right now I'm like, I went upstairs and Geraldine told me, you know, she said, oh, Yuji, you know, well, this is all nice because we're just sitting here and we've got, like, you know, 2 ounces on our head and you know, but, you know, my effing problem starts when I start doing a push-up or something. I mean, come on, right? And I want you to know it makes no difference. We're going to still do the same thing at that pitch. So for this last little part, I want you to be a little careful here. I don't want you to knock yourselves out, but I want you to put yourself into some condition of duress while you're doing this thing. So like it's easy again, if we're just moving around, it's very nice. We're being exploratory, that's fine. But what if you were in a heavy yoga pose, or if you are lifting a heavy weight, or if you are, in Geraldine's case, it triggers when she does an incline pull-up. So I have these rings upstairs and we're trying to get her like back up to snuff. And so she's doing these rings here and she finds her neck gets triggered in that situation. So what I would like you to do is I would like you to find a situation like that. You know, you can just even just do it here, just like really maybe put a lot of energy and just see, can you do that process of putting a lot of energy in what you do gracefully so you don't upset the balance that you've created. I want you to push in a little bit. Don't push into pain. So if you find pain, then that's the time when you need to ask a question. When you find something, you go, I tried this, you got into pain, then don't just continue going into it. Just ask me and we will go through that process of trying to figure it out. But go ahead and just find something that would be difficult for you.
Can you find something where the neck is can you give us a position where the neck is
I want you to go upstairs.
bigger?
Geraldine's in the house right now. I want you to go to the 3rd floor and I want you to get on those rings.
Ah.
And she can show you. You'll see what she's doing. But for the rest of you guys, again, go ahead and just for a couple minutes here, just go ahead and just find that area. And again, we probably won't have time to fully get into today, but I want you to kind of see. Use the
Isn't Kim upstairs?
It doesn't matter if Kim's upstairs. Use the adjustments that you have to adjust, but you may need some more things. We'll just see. Go ahead and try though.
Can I use the weight on my head again?
Yes, of course you can do whatever you like. But Barbell, if you're going to use it, use a little heavier weight maybe, or maybe try walking really fast, or whatever you like. Something to give yourself a little more challenge, so it's not just in the perfect situation, but something that creates a challenge for you. Maybe go outside, maybe. Still use everything that you know. You can balance again through these pelvic floor, the diaphragm floor, try to support that way. You might want to try using your neck ring. You might want to use this Viloma. You might want to use your jaw to check out. You want to engage that last 10% of your rib cage. Like Barbell, I think that's wonderful, and I want you to try, but I want you to straighten your arms and see see if you can find the support, not by stretching your hands out, but by finding the right connections between your spine and your shoulders and your torso. Don't go into pain but just discover what is your limiting factor, what is the difficulty that happens, and just try to find a way lightly around it. If you can't find it, don't worry, because this is exactly what we're going to be covering next. Some things to ask yourself is, maybe you make an adjustment and you think it doesn't work. Just make sure, though, that when you did the adjustment, just as Geraldine had to know with her shoulders, you can't do it all at once. If it's new, you have to settle into it. You can use different techniques to do it. Maybe just an energy pitch modulation to find out whether that part is actually working. Maybe you need to find more awareness first. Listen, there's so many variations here. I just want you to check what could be the problem here. But look for those sudden moments. If something is suddenly becoming painful very quickly, it's usually a sign that, again, that you are rushing in a little too quickly. You need to back off and enter into a little more slowly. All right, you guys, let's just briefly talk about this. Again, I think we're going to need next class to actually get into these issues, but let's just talk about what they are. What's going on?
I felt some pain in my right shoulder, kind of along the side of my neck. Felt like maybe some kind of a nerve pain in there.
Mm-hmm. A nerve pain, usually, again, when a nerve pain happens, is because the inner structures are not supported, and the outer structures are trying to support what the inner structure should be supporting. So, for example, when I'm working with Lothar right now, I'm working very much with him. He has that nerve issue that extends down his leg. That nerve issue is generally happening close to where the sacrum and the ilium is. It's very close there. And my sense is, again, he's using his leg muscles. He knows how to use his leg muscles, but he doesn't know how to access those smaller muscles that are closer in towards the spine that actually support those nerves and allow them to sort of come out in these nice ways. So we will, and for Andrew's situation, we would work on the rib cage and also the spine and make sure those are connected and supported correctly. Who else? What are the kinds of things? Geraldine.
For me, really,
Go ahead, Geraldine.
for me, it was really difficult to deal with ring here.
Mm-hmm.
I find as soon as I get in that position, like I get super engaged, especially if I try to keep my neck aligned with my body.
Mm.
So then I try moving my neck a little bit in like this, which feels a little better for just a bit. And then it just, yeah, I find very difficult to put that together when I'm in that position.
Were you doing a push-up, pull-up, or were you just holding in one position? Geraldine, were you in one position or were you actually pulling up like this? You have to be
just in the one position.
Just in the one position. So, you know,
you couldn't see me?
Yeah, I could, but I wasn't, you know, I had my eyes
Okay.
all over. So,
Huh?
so
You can't hear Yuji talking.
Yeah, I can. Oh, no, I can't. What did you say?
So in Geraldine's situation, she's doing it correctly in a situation like that where she's doing a pull-up and, you know, she's having a problem. She's staying in the equilibrium position and she's trying to work it out there, but she's not quite sure, again, how to get that support there. She's still having that difficulty. So she's tried different things. She's moved her neck. She hasn't been able to find it. What she's going to have to use, in my opinion, is going to be, she's going to have to find the right flow pattern at that last 10%. And I know because I've worked with her that she's got a very particular issue right in the upper back right here. And I'm pretty sure that if we work through that area right there, she's going to be just fine. So that we will hold on to as well. I'm just going to just show you again. But for her, I think it's going to be a flow patterning issue very close to her spine. Anyone else? Who else had problems and what was the nature of their problem?
But like, so I'm similar to Geraldine. I was doing an incline pull-up and I find my head thrusts forward instead of going up with my chest more. But when I activated up here, I was able to keep my head like kind of get that floating feeling I had when I was walking.
Yes. And so she found solution.
I had to really pitch it up, and I just could do it in the equilibrium and then a little bit up. Like it's a work in progress, but
yes. You guys have all seen that, right? When someone does a push up or something, they'll like dip their head like down towards the ground. Have you ever seen someone do a push up that way? They do that. It's like their head sort of like separate from their body, and they're kind of doing this thing as they're doing that. And same thing when you're doing a pull up, you can kind of have that kind of same thing there too. And again, this is a situation where the neck really shouldn't be involved with that because it can't really help in a situation. It can just provide length with the spine, but everything else has to be actually engaged. And you saw that guy. Remember you guys saw the cheetah? You remember that? Did you remember the head? It was like this, right? No movement, because the only thing the head and the tail are doing is balancing that spine. And everything else, though, is working around that really, really nicely, right? So this is what she's finding there. Again, body-mind hierarchy issue where your spine cannot help you pull up, but it can help you find the framework for the rest of your muscles to balance themselves around. It's the axis of your body in that situation. So for Pamela, she's going to have to find engagement and, again, flow pattern in the other areas of her body and to not try to do it through her spine. Anything else you guys keep? I'm just going to give you a flavor of like the solutions, and then tomorrow, next time, we can start looking at some of these cases and see if we can go through them a little bit more in detail.
I had some very interesting moments of like Jerry getting an idea of a completion, and also with the skin coming in fully. The moment of fire, and then immediately out. And that's really interesting. And I got an idea. Um, I got an idea about Ambivalenz, also emotionale Ambivalenz, because the verbal being, also showing up is is dangerous, has been at least. So this what I experienced with
Okay.
alignment.
Yes, I think what Thea is saying is that for her, it's very interesting. You know, the skin has been a very, very important place for her for the integration. So for some people, it's more helpful, like to get into the local parts and to fix things and to understand things, the direct relation of, oh, you need to do this with this. But with Thea, and sometimes you'll find people who they need to find a more whole connection first before they can deal with a specific thing. And for her, the skin seems to be a very, very important thing. I don't know if you guys saw her dancing yesterday, but oh, she was like starting to go really nicely. Again, something's opened up very nicely, and I think it's because she can go through the skin. You know, she's focused on something that makes sense to her as a whole. Kim was very much that way too. When it was initially very hard for her to do specific adjustments, they were just too local, and she had to start working from a point of view of the whole first, because that would make sense the most, and then get into the details. So I think, again, you'll start to see that as well, this kind of difference in style of what is necessary for that person to make the first steps. Sometimes, again, the small steps, this particular thing releasing is important for that person to see. The other person needs to see kind of everything feeling like it's in some kind of place that makes sense. Anything else, you guys? I just we're out of town here, but I just want to again just give a sketch of like these kinds of things. This, you see how it is. The thought process here is not one of, oh, there's a problem with a thing, here's an exercise for next, it generally works like this. It's not like that. We're going to look again at each person's individual sort of difficulty and try to see it in the context of a developmental hierarchy, and kind of saying, hey, you know what, I think that this is what they need, rather than something that might be working in a general way for everybody. We're going to try to center that area of exploration so that that person can get the most out of that situation. Anybody else here who had something that they want to? I'm interested to know what Tanya has this background, like that I've only kind of heard tangentially, but like that you had done like some like bodybuilding and stuff like this. That's correct, right? That's and quite intensively, I think, right? Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I did some bodybuilding, but I did it a little bit unconsciously. So I got into a lot of trouble. Because I was building the outside and not the inside. So I had to go back, and that's when I started yoga and all this, and that really helped. Because, but yes, I know all my muscles. I know how to make them bigger, but that doesn't make you stronger.
So tell me, how did you test yourself in this situation? I'm just curious, because you went off camera. I was curious to see how you would test yourself.
Oh, I was still I was trying to feel the breathing inside my back, because that was really exciting for me. It was a very small, and I had not felt anything there. So I just wanted to, and I did a few things, but I went back to trying to get that, the breathing to come up here.
I love that. I love that. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful challenge. There's all sorts of challenges, you guys, and there's, you don't always have to be lifting the biggest weight or whatever it is. Sometimes it's like just getting that flow right is a really beautiful challenge, and a difficult one too. It's going to be very significant if she finds that. All right, you guys, listen. So I've now revealed myself. I'm a very serious person, and I want you guys to very seriously look at the stuff that you're dealing with, and I want you to very seriously start to see if you can get over those things. We've got 3 weeks now, and my concern is not so much that you are you know, that you, I don't want you guys to feel like, oh God, I got to be able to do this stuff. Like, no, I don't want you. I just want you to get the flavor of the technique and just press in a little bit. Just give it an honest go. I want you to find those things. I don't want you to gain. The worst thing that you could do is kind of say, oh, well, I've always had that, so let's not worry about that. We'll just work about this. I want you again to go into the situation. This is a little bit of a demand that I have on you. I don't care if, you know, I'm not a homework type person. I don't care about a lot of things, but I do want you guys to make a demand on yourselves. And that demand is to see if you can, you know, you can overcome, or at least start to explore what does it mean to learn about those particular areas of body mind. Yes. Okay. So we're out of time. Does anyone have any questions or anything? That's the only homework. Just go for it. Go for it. Find those things, and again, come see if you can come in with some observations for next time. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Lovely, guys. Okay. Thanks, and I'll see you on Wednesday.
Thank you.